Complete Guide to Storybook in Software Automation. Storybook is an open-source tool that allows developers and testers to build UI components and pages in isolation and document them in a structured format. It is widely used in the software development and testing lifecycle, especially for front-end applications. Storybook enhances component-driven development, CDD, improving UI consistency, reusability, and enabling UI testing, especially in the context of automation. This guide provides a complete overview of how Storybook can be used in software automation to enhance testing, including setting up Storybook, its integration into CI/CD pipelines, visual regression testing, and best practices. 1. What is Storybook? Storybook is a tool for developing UI components in isolation, allowing teams to build, test, and showcase UI elements outside of the application. It works by creating a structured story for each component that defines how the component should look and behave under different circumstances. Component-driven development, CDD, focuses on building and testing components independently before integration into the larger UI. Isolated UI development, components can be developed in isolation without depending on the entire application, ensuring they work as expected. 2. Why use Storybook in software automation? Storybook integrates well into the software automation process, primarily in the context of UI testing and visual validation. Here are the key benefits. Visual consistency. Validate that UI components behave and appear as expected in various states, preventing UI regressions. Automated documentation. Auto-generate visual documentation for components, aiding QA teams to understand how each component should behave. UI testing. Easily write test cases that cover various edge cases for components. Visual regression testing. Detect unintended UI changes via visual snapshot comparison tools. Component-driven testing. Test each component in isolation, reducing the complexity of functional and end-to-end testing. 3. Setting up Storybook in a project. Installing Storybook. Storybook can be installed for most front-end frameworks, including React, Vue, Angular, Svelte, etc. The following steps demonstrate the process for React. 1. Install Storybook. npx Storybook at latest init. This command installs Storybook and sets up the necessary files for your project. It also adds at Storybook/React, at Storybook/addonActions, and at Storybook/addonLinks as dependencies. 2. Run Storybook. npm run Storybook. This will launch Storybook in development mode, available at http://localhost 6006. B. Creating stories for components. A story is a function that describes how the component should look for a particular state or use case. Stories are defined in a stories.js file. Here's a simple example for a button component. JavaScript import React from React, import button from /button, export default, title, button, component, button, const template equals, args, equals button, args, /, export const primary equals template.bind, primary.args equals a label, primary button, variant, primary, export const secondary equals template.bind, secondary.args equals label, secondary button, variant, secondary. Each story describes a different state of the button component. Primary and secondary are two different configurations of the same button component. C. Storybook add-ons for automation. Storybook provides a wide range of add-ons that can enhance the testing and automation workflow. Some popular ones include Actions add-on, logs data about user interactions, like clicks and inputs. Controls add-on, provides controls to dynamically change props in the UI. Docs add-on, automatically generates documentation for components. Accessibility add-on, allows testing for accessibility violations based on WCAG standards. Viewport add-on, tests components in different screen sizes for responsive design. To install an add-on, run npm install at Storybook/addonActions, save dev, then configure it in .storybook/main.js, JavaScript module.exports equals, add-ons, at Storybook/addonActions. 4. Storybook in software automation workflows. A. UI component testing with Storybook. Automating UI testing for each component allows for validation of visual elements, functionality, and responsiveness. Here's how you can automate component testing with Storybook. 1. Jest with Storybook. Storybook integrates easily with Jest for unit testing. You can write unit tests to ensure components render as expected. JavaScript import, render, from, at testing library/React, import, primary, from ./button. Stories, test, renders primary button, equals, const, get by text, equals render, primary, primary.args, / expect, get by text, primary button, to be in the document. This test checks if the primary button renders correctly in the DOM. 2. Interaction testing. Using the Actions add-on, you can simulate user interactions, like button clicks or form submissions, and assert the expected behavior. JavaScript export const clickable button equals button on click equals action, button clicked, click me /button, then, write a test to assert that the click action is logged. B. Visual regression testing. Visual regression testing ensures that UI components do not change unexpectedly. Tools like Storybook's Chromatic, Percy, and Loki can be integrated with Storybook to automatically capture visual snapshots and compare them against baseline snapshots. 1. Chromatic automates visual regression testing and works directly with Storybook. Install Chromatic. npm install save dev Chromatic, add it to your CI pipeline, npx chromatic, project token equals, your underscore project underscore token 2. Loki, another popular tool for visual regression testing that integrates with Storybook. Install Loki, npm install save dev Loki, run visual tests, npm run Loki, update Loki will capture snapshots and compare them to baseline images, reporting any visual differences. C. Integration with CI/CD pipelines. Storybook can be integrated into CI/CD pipelines to continuously validate UI components, ensuring that any new changes are tested and that visual or functional regressions are detected early. Popular CI/CD tools like Jenkins, GitLab CI, Circle CI, and GitHub Actions can be used. 1. Set up GitHub Actions for Storybook. Create a.github/workflows/storybook. YML file, YAML name, Storybook build and deploy on, push, branches, main jobs, build, runs on, Ubuntu latest steps, name, checkout code uses, action/checkout at v2, name, install dependencies run, npm install, name, build Storybook run, npm run build Storybook, name, deploy Storybook to GitHub pages uses, James Ives/GitHub pages deploy. Action at v4 with, branch, gh pages folder, Storybook static 2. Visual regression in CI. By integrating Chromatic or Loki into CI, you can run visual tests automatically on every push or pull request. D. Accessibility testing with the accessibility add-in. You can run automated tests for accessibility. This ensures that components comply with accessibility guidelines such as WCAG 2.1. The add-in checks for issues like color contrast, keyboard navigation, ARIA roles, etc. 1. Install the add-in. npm install at storybook/add-in, A11y, save dev 2. Add it to .storybook/main.js, JavaScript module.exports equals, add-ons, at storybook/add-in, A11y, 3. Run tests in Storybook. Storybook will show accessibility warnings directly in the interface, helping you fix issues early in development. 5. Best practices for using Storybook in automation. Modular story structure. Organize your stories in a clear and maintainable way. Group related components and their stories for easy navigation. Leverage add-ons. Use relevant Storybook add-ons, e.g., actions, controls, accessibility, to enhance the development and testing experience. Snapshot testing. Use snapshot testing tools like Jest to match snapshot for validating the rendered output of components, especially for pure functional components. Automate everything. Ensure that all tests, including visual regression and accessibility, are part of your CI/CD pipeline for continuous feedback. Focus on edge cases, create stories for edge cases, different states, and rare scenarios to ensure that components behave correctly under all conditions. 6. Conclusion. Storybook provides a powerful platform for component-driven development and testing, allowing developers and QA engineers to isolate, document, and automate UI testing at a granular level. By integrating it into your CI/CD pipeline and using it in conjunction with visual regression and accessibility testing tools, Storybook can significantly improve the quality and consistency of the user interface. By following best practices and integrating the necessary tools, Storybook can become a central hub for UI automation testing, ensuring robust, reliable, and consistent UIs across various projects.